book written by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, expanding 2 verses from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. The 2 verses are the 2 verses of the stages of bhakti, from Shraddha to Prema. And where we got last time was we were kind of in the very beginning of the Anarjana Vritti stage. There's one slide that is a little review of some of what we've covered so far, so I won't be too repetitive. But something that I liked very, very much in the early parts of Madhurya Kadambini was how meticulously Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes how bhakti begins, or what is this term? What does it mean? The seed of bhakti, bhakti lata bija. What is it? So it was a nice explanation. And then he went through a series of, well, it's not this and it's not that, it's not this and it's not that, it's not the other thing. So this is what it is. It was a very comprehensive explanation. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur he's concise, but he's complete. So I really like how he writes. I like him and how he writes. So Shraddha is faith. And where does faith arise from? Then Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, from Sadhu one gets the Bhakti Lata Bija. And what is it? We heard in the earlier parts. And then comes Bhajana Kriya. And what's Bhajana Kriya? And there's different categories with Sanskrit phrases of what Bhajana Kriya is. And now we're all the way into what happens when you are engaged in Bhajana Kriya is, if done properly, unwanted things. In Canto 1, Chapter 2, the Sanskrit phrase is abhadras, and here it's anarthas, unwanted things, but subtle within, and how they can become eradicated when the process of bhakti, particularly the process of chanting the holy name, is done properly. So that's where we are. We're at part 2. Here's a little review of what we covered. This you all know. The 2 results of Bhajana Kriya when properly performed. Remember the description. There's the first thing that shows is a little shoot pops through the soil, and then 2 leaves unfurl. So those 2 leaves are Kleshagni and Shubhada. So Vishwanath, covered those 2 rather thoroughly. What are sufferings that are unwanted, that are eradicated in awakening of auspiciousness? And then there's unsteady stage and the steady stage. So anishtata, very simply expressed, as the bhajan that's intermittent, sometimes slackening, sometimes very enthusiastic, sometimes mediocre, sometimes slackening. So the inconsistency of bhajan is anishtata. The understanding is it's a state that follows anarjana vritti is nishtha. It's not just practice that's steady, but it's bhakti that's steady. So that's on the other side of anarjana vritti. Then in Chapter 3, the main topic, so there's not just one, there's 5 different main topics. The main topic is anarjana vritti, and sources from which anarthas come. Artha, as in Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, he discusses this. Artha generally means wealth, money, people want. But a more general meaning is something that is desired. So the practicalness for many people is just money, or affluence, or piety that brings prosperity in one's life, this life and the next life. Artha. So anartha is something that's unwanted. So he very slowly, very meticulously, in his style of writing, he outlines what these four sources, the unwanted things that arise from sin, unwanted things that arise from past pious works. This was a little puzzling until he made it very clear. It's not the fruits of past piety, but it's wanting to be the enjoyer of. That's the anartha, the unwanted thing. And then anarthas that arise from offenses. And then he outlined variety of this, that, and the other category of offenses. And then those arising from devotion itself, which is similar to anarthas arising from past pious activities. That is, labha, puja, and pratishta. When someone becomes a little successful in bhakti, then something comes to them: praise, adoration, fame, prestige, some position, some honor, something. And it's the same problem as pious activities, wanting to be the enjoyer of. So hopefully it's very clear. Certainly in Vishwanath's writing is very clear. It's myself is at the center, and I have different definitions of what enjoyment is, but it's about me and my enjoyment. And that's the problem. And that's how one comes into material existence. Raga, dvesha, samudtena. So he outlines all these. There's one more topic. Which source of anarthas is the most difficult to counteract? Well, they're all difficult to counteract, but Guru aparad, Vaishnava aparad, offending a devotee of the Lord is a source of anartha that's very difficult to it's like once something is in motion, it perpetuates. One thing leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing. Nam aparad. So there's 10 nam aparads. He is now going to take us through some of those 10 non-aparads. So there's this beautiful map or chart. You see where we're headed. There's nishtha and ruchi. And then you see below, in this creeper of bhakti, there's anartha nivritti. And there's lots of Sanskrit terms that you can't read because the text is too small. But different categories of those things that inhibit or they're detrimental to coming to the stage of steady bhakti. So that's the unsteady stage, the anartha nivritti stage. And I'm not going to go through all of what's in the chart because we did it. But we're headed, at least conceptually, we're headed targeting towards the stage of possible when largely, it's not squeaky clean yet, but largely the anarthas in the heart are largely gone. Residual tendencies may remain, but steady is largely gone. So in this chart, that big map of the Bhakti Lata creeper, anarthas arising from aparad was a big topic. Hatred towards devotional service, aparad, literally that's what, there's nam aparad, seva aparad, Vaishnav aparad, and jiva aparad. So the question was asked before of the types of aparads, which is the most dangerous, and it's nam aparad. And nam aparad has its subdivisions. One of the most common ones for anybody, it's a conditioned soul, that's most of us, is inattention, inattentive. So the opposite is attentive, or being present with the holy name when engaged with the holy name. So it's a relationship that's very personal and personable, and naturally a relationship that's personal and personable leads to affection for that entity, that person with whom one is in association with attentively, especially that person on the other end of a relationship is very merciful, very kind, very benevolent, very, superlatively affectionate. So it's natural. It's a natural characteristic of an offense to be carefully guarded against is inattentiveness. And one of the most prominent ones. Because, what is attentiveness? What does it look like? And for how long can one be attentive? But it's not just practice of mind control. It's relationship. Small thing. So, unwanted desires arise from offenses, and then the unwanted desires keeps us really busy. So the instruction in Madhurya Kadambini is pay attention to the root, and you'll take care of the leaves and branches. And the leaves and branches, the desires that arise, we saw that chart of what arises from the root. It's, we can say the root is ignorance, or ignoring Krishna. Here we are, in ignorance. And then the flip side is not being in ignorance, but being attentive, being in knowledge of. But how can we be, so it's how can you be in knowledge of the merciful nature of Krishna's holy name if we're inattentive to the holy name? Because we may have a concept, but the concept doesn't match our experience. And that happens. There's very nice teachings involved in all this. It's one of the it's one of the offenses to consider that the glories of the chanting O holy name is an exaggeration. The holy name, blah, 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 blah. Oh, but that's not my experience. So it must be, it's a hype, it's an exaggeration, so that it'll get people to do something that's good for them, and that's all that stops there. It's not really the glory of the holy name. It's just, it's nice, but it's an exaggeration, and that's an offense. As long as these rationalizing or minimizing or placing the chanting of the holy name in some other position, the full effect isn't going to be our experience. So here's a nice picture, Sankirtan devotee distributing books, and there's the vilification ladies down at the bottom. Namaparad is the most important amongst the four categories of offenses to be avoided, and amongst Namaparad, the most vicious is Namaparad, number 1. Sadhu Ninda, offense against the devotees of the Lord that is done with animosity. Now it's a qualifier. So supposing it's not without a qualifier, it's just casual, and you're not feeling some animosity, but it's just gossip. We're a little familiar with the nature of gossip. Blah, blah, blah. Kind of casual blah, blah, blah. Not vilification, strong criticism, animosity, malice, as those two ladies are doing, finger pointing at each other. But, it's, the more severe is with animosity. And in making criticism of others without the malice and animosity, it's also offense. Here's from Hari Bhakti Vilas. Satam ninda namna parama aparadam vitanute. Public criticism of a sadhu causes the greatest aparad in relation to nama. So, beware. At least, know the road signs. And as you're going forward, be vigilant to avoid the potholes, and you break your axle and you can't go further anymore. So, it was the sadhu who caused nama to become renowned in the world, and for us then to receive the holy name is because of the efforts of sadhu. And vilification or criticism, public criticism, is the greatest of all offenses, greatest of the 10. Here's some nice teachings on this exact topic, Vaishnava Ninda, in an article, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I'm going to share something because it just came to my attention within the past 24 hours. Somebody somewhere read something somewhere, and it's an autobiography of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who said right up until he received initiation in his mid-30s, something like that, he was eating meat. So this devotee was saying, I don't want to make an offense, but blah, blah, blah. So in his book, Vaishnava Ninda, he makes reference to another literature, Nama Tattva Ratna Mala. And these are two verses quoted by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And here's 3 types of faults of a devotee. Those faults that were seen in them before bhakti rose in their lives. 2, those that are remaining in them in minor degrees as they are being cleansed through bhakti. And those rare faults that arise accidentally in them due to providence. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I mean, he's not right. It's not his autobiography, but one devotee somewhere read something in his autobiography that gave him pause. And in his mind, he was becoming a critic, although he was saying he wasn't. I hope you understand what I'm doing here. It's when we're going to hear this as we go forward, but when you hear strong criticism of a Vaishnava, whatever that Bhaktivinoda Thakur or anyone or everyone or you name, it's poison, and poison has an effect. So one must be at guard against, and one should never be deliberated upon by anyone at any point in time faults that arose in those devotees' lives. Anyone who deliberates upon the faults of Vaishnavas without a genuine reason, that's a nice qualifier. What's a genuine reason? Or deliberates upon them simply for the sake of spreading rumors, should be understood to be a despicable critic of sadhus. Now, this is in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's writing. Now, obviously, Vishwanath, lived long before Bhaktivinoda Thakur lived. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur is writing on the same topic, and therefore it's included in this little presentation. It's not a subset of Vishwanath's writing, but it's a principle that he wants us to understand. What is what are the three types of sadhu ninda characteristics? We should be very careful, vigilant. Here's from Hari Bhakti Vilas. Hati nindati vai dveshti. The 6 transgressions against Vaishnavas are: you can kill a Vaishnava, needlessly critique or gossip about a Vaishnava, that's this nindati. Hati nindati vai dveshti, envy a Vaishnava. To not properly greet a Vaishnava. To become angry upon a Vaishnava who is not one's disciple. To not exhibit happiness on seeing a Vaishnava. This is Hari Bhakti Vilas. It's just, taking a hammer and a nail and banging it a number of times so it becomes very clear. What is this thing, this sadhu ninda thing? Or nindati, what is it? And how dangerous it is. Transgression. It's a spiritual violation. Padma Purana states, even a sinful person who, with all bad qualities, who lacks proper behavior, is wicked, fallen, and deceitful, is liberated if he takes shelter of the lotus feet of Govinda. Padma Purana. If such an ill-behaved person, in fact, is devoted to the Lord, is to be known as a sadhu. So the past is made clean or purified by chanting and by sadhu sangha that comes with sadhu sangha comes chanting, and one's past may be whatever one's past was. And that's the method of how, or the procedure by which someone becomes sadhu, by association with sadhus, or sadhu sangha and bhajana kriya. And then anartha nivritti, that's our topic. So by the anartha nivritti process, one may gradually become sadhu-like and eventually sadhu. Yesterday there was some discussion about, because it was his appearance day, some discussion about Shyamananda. And we heard how Shyamananda, through his purity and transcendental association, he transformed wicked killers of Vaishnavas or punishers of the Sankirtan parties, the different wicked people became completely transformed by his association. And of course, then came into their life the process of chanting through that association. So we are meant to be recipients of and then distributors of that which we've received, the mercy that can come into one's life from the chanting of the holy name and receiving the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this way, and then distributing. And it's pretty simple in principle, and the procedure is quite simple. It's quite joyful. So what we like. And people may not like. There were circumstances, just little off topic or little anecdotal. there were circumstances where devotees were in different parts of the world. They were literally harassed by the police and by the public and, by this and that, just for chanting. Certainly Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to endure the same. But when asked, Prabhupada was asked what to do, our devotees in such and such place in Australia are in jail. Tell them to chant in jail. Well, they took their beads. Chant with your fingers. Chant, clap and chant, right in jail. But, they'll harass us. Expect it. Prabhupada was bold. Confronting Maya is daunting at times. Depends on circumstances. Just today, hopefully she's listening while she's doing her deity worship, but Radhika sent me a little note that Prabhupada had written to one of his godbrothers who was planning to go to China to preach. He said, he didn't say go in karmi clothes, he just said dress as a gentleman. And that way you'll be able to move about more freely. I was told by the GBC of China, when you go to China, don't even bring a dhoti in your suitcase. Because sometimes, by security checking of luggage, they go through everything in your luggage. And if they find a dhoti in your luggage, you got a problem. So don't bring a dhoti in even your luggage. It's a prosperous place, and it can be, for a Vaishnava, it can be a dangerous place. Walking on eggshells. Anyway, without all that. Persons can become completely transformed by the chanting of the holy name, regardless of time, place, and circumstance. A sadhu, so the topic is sadhu ninda. A sadhu is any devotee, even if ill-behaved, are on Vaishnava etiquette. Remember that? And the reason was, there's a lot of new people coming in the door. And many of those new people coming in the door, this is my perspective, they're well-educated, and they think highly of themselves because they're well-educated. They feel some sense of entitlement. And they have their own ways of doing things, and they want their way of doing things to be respected, and they don't necessarily respect other people. And so we found, by the expanding of the Hare Krishna movement, there was dissension growing. Yeah. So, to be expected. So now what to do? So we decided some training and education would be helpful on what's proper conduct when you get together with other people. It's like what you do within yourself and with you and your family, and then when you go out and you're and about, what's proper etiquette? So that was the concept behind. So this past year, Urmila came as a guest speaker. The previous year was Radhakrishna came. So on the topic of Vaishnava etiquette, and she did what she did, and I took the same topic, which was respect. And in that lesson on respect, there was a little section, because I just reviewed it, an hour before coming here. There was a situation where Brahmananda and his brother Gargamuni, they were brothers, they had the same mother. And when their time for initiation came, they invited their mother. And their mother Remember, those of you that were with us, you remember, she was sitting in a chair because she couldn't sit on the floor. We didn't want her to sit on the floor. She sat in a chair with her arms folded across her chest, looking angry, like she was going to burn everybody in the room with her anger. She didn't say anything. She just had that bhava, anger, mood. Prabhupada saw it, and he, before their initiation, he, audibly instructed Brahmananda, go pay your obeisances before your mother. Now, what Jewish mother is going to expect their son, and Brahmananda is this big-bodied fellow, and his mother's more diminutive, elderly lady, expects their son to pay their obeisances. So she didn't know what to do. When he was paying obeisances, she looked at Prabhupada like daggers coming from her eyes, and said, "One thing I don't understand, what do you have against Judaism?" Prabhupada didn't answer. He said, "Brahmananda." Oh, he wasn't yet Brahmananda, he wasn't yet initiated. So pay your obeisances to your mother again, and ask permission. Ask her permission, take her blessings to receive initiation. Right in front, in front of everybody, right in 26 2nd Avenue, little storefront. She didn't say, "I give my blessings," but, her demeanor changed. Just by the way in which Prabhupada was, she understood, to some degree at least, the person who my son is taking shelter of. And he's a respectful person. So Prabhupada's respect shown through his asking Brahmananda before he was initiated, Bruce, I think was his name, to show respect to your mother and seek her blessings before proceeding. So respect precedes our actions, even when there's somebody that's being a little difficult with us. Now, it's not common to do something like that, but that was the training and specific. It was a public little, because Brahmananda and Gargamuni were both, in the language of those days, they were big devotees. They were both, their bodies were big, and they were leaders by their disposition. Gargamuni later became nicknamed Gargamuni because he was really good with money. And Brahmananda stayed Brahmananda. It was okay, Brahmananda. But they were leaders by their stature and the roles that they played in the process of interacting with the Vaishnava organization that Prabhupada was generating, the Hare Krishna movement. And there's his mother. So it's seek forgiveness from the sadhu from whom we have offended. So it wasn't the mother had offended. The mother was angry at Prabhupada. So she didn't say it, but she was vibing everything. So an attempt should be made to please the sadhu. If, for some reason, the sadhu is unforgiving, don't demote them in our minds to a non-sadhu status due to the fact that they are not forgiving us. And in this way, trivializing the offense we made or trivializing them. If seeking forgiveness is unsuccessful or not possible, we should then take exclusive shelter of Harinam and chant in a helpless state of mind. Now, this is what to do if there's a sadhu, and we recognize there's a sadhu, or at least sadhu-like, and commonly what Prabhupada would say is you try again and try again and try again, but in a humble, genuine way, and drops of water wear away the stone. So by that genuineness of seeking the sadhu to tone down or tame their displeasure, chances are they will become forgiving instead of angry or feeling offended. And if it doesn't, you do it again and do it again. That's Kamilu, what Prabhupada would say here. Don't demote that sadhu to a less than sadhu status in your mind, because they're not forgiving. No, so trivialize them or trivialize the offense. And then you take shelter of the holy name. That's our, you could say our last resort, or the ultimate resort is the chanting of the holy name. Now, these are small, supposing one could take them as casual, but sometimes in our lives as devotees, these situations arise, and someone who we look up to feels offended. Or, somebody who we're in close association with, it may come to your attention. They may feel offended by you or by somebody else. And, and how are you supposed to handle situations like that? This is the social, there's the individual, and then there's the social interaction thing. That's Vaishnava etiquette. How to conduct yourself in pluralistic society where people are different, and the understanding of one person may be, I want to show my respect and my appreciation from this devotee. This happened for me in the last 24 hours. The person on the receiving end understood it just the opposite. And, fortunately, many of those things, they just go under the bridge, water under the bridge. But this person happened to bring it up, and one of those things that happens. So what do you do when one of those things that happens? A lot depends. So your sincerity and your place of shelter, and that the sadhu can be forgiven, or another person who may feel they were mistreated or misunderstood or dealt with in a way that was disrespectful or something. It doesn't become a zero because they've misunderstood. But if after respect is shown, and somehow they're holding on to it, you go to the holy name. Your relationship with the holy name suspends, or everything is suspended from that in our spiritual lives. That's the teaching for this little section. Failing to approach the Vaishnava, thinking they're exalted, no need to ask forgiveness because they're elevated, compounds the offense. Pointing to a defect of one who has been offended does not minimize the offense. Dust of Mahabhagavata's feet may not forgive you, even if the sadhu is forgiving by nature. Therefore, shelter at his feet is also necessary. No, it's getting darker. Blaspheming a saintly person is deadly. Here's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. The first offense is to criticize and blaspheme the devotees. Blasphemy in this context means to be envious of and antagonistic towards the saintly devotee. If one even accidentally commits this offense against a Vaishnava, he must bitterly repent his low behavior, just as poison is counteracted by poison. Similarly, the offender, having set aflame his spiritual life with blasphemy, must be purified by the fire of contrition. This is directly Vishwanath's writing or translation of his Sanskrit. the offender must go and fall at the feet of the devotee he reviled and beg forgiveness until he is again able to please that Vaishnava. He must approach the devotee with trepidation in his heart of the holy name and chant incessantly, knowing this to be his only hope. So it's heavy, but it's heavy for a reason. It's, of the 10 offenses, it's number one in the list of 10, and it's number one in seriousness or gravity. Vishwanath goes on quoting 2 verses from Bhagavad Gita. You know these 2 verses. The verse Apichat Sundarachara is meant for exclusively highlighting the fault of criticizing a one-pointed sadhu, free from all previous sinful tendencies. He attained lasting peace only after becoming Dharmatma, a saintly soul purified from all abominable tendencies. You can see the style of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's. He takes a topic and really works it, covering it from this angle, that angle, the other angle. And based upon Shastra. Here is an application of a upalakshana. We came across this word upalakshana before already, and under the sadhu ninda category. The upalakshana, or in English is metonymy, some term, in this case the term is ninda, automatically includes all 10 categories of aparad, or the other 9, such as, so by saying one thing, the others are implied. Upalakshate, upalakshante. So when chanting, this is the meaning. Here's a little definition. Upalakshante means substitution of one term for another based upon an understanding, an understood association, or common occurrence in several terms together. So you say one thing and it implies all the other ones. That's a Sanskrit phrase. So while emphasis is placed on sadhuninda, the understanding we're being given by Vishwanath is the same applies to the other 9. By mentioning in this way so strongly number 1. And the third offense against the chanting of the holy name, just as it is an offense to blaspheme sadhus, likewise is an offense to disrespect the guru, not chanting the mantras given by the guru, and not practicing devotion according to his instructions is offensive, since it is neglectful, neglecting the instructions of the spiritual master. So here's a nice example from scripture. This is Brihat Bhagavatamrita. There's Gopakumar receiving mantra from his guru in Vrindavan. And he says later, for the rest of his duration, as he went here and there and there and there, on the power of the mantra, for fear of being ungrateful, I never gave up my japa. And not only didn't give up his japa, without having bothered to receive the mantras, all the mantras' benefits, how could Gopakumar properly acknowledge them? Reasonable, right? We'll say it again. How can I honor that which, a gift that has been given to me, if I don't experience that gift? I can say, gee, thanks. But, from the heart with full realization, how can I have that gratitude in my heart for that which I've received if I don't even really understand what it is properly? Then how can I acknowledge, how can I complete the fullness of gratitude? This came up several times in the course of Gopakumar's journey. When he got to Tapaloka, you've read the Tapaloka? There's 7 upper planetary systems. And there's 7 lower planetary systems. We're at the bottom of the upper. Bhu, Bhuvar, Svargaloka. Then Janaloka, Tapaloka, Maharloka, Brahmaloka. Or, Satyaloka. So, in Tapaloka, who are the residents? Gopakumar meets them. In Tapaloka, they're renunciates. Below is grahastas, who are very expert in their activities of yajna. And above that is those who are the renunciates, and they just engage in meditation 24/7. No, they're intense. And when Gopakumar, went to Tapaloka on the strength of chanting, he just like Zoom, he went to Tapaloka. Didn't need a rocket ship, he just went there. And he met the residents of Tapaloka. And they asked him, what are you doing? I'm chanting japa. That's my guru gave me that service. Why are you chanting japa? Then they gave their explanation. You want to see the personality of Godhead, right? From chanting japa. We're seeing him all the time. Just come and join us. Chant japa. Engage with meditation with us. It's nice. We'll show you how to do it, and etc. And he appreciated their generosity, but then he made this statement. If I did what they're recommending, then they would be guilty of the fault of ungratitude or being ungrateful. I can't. How can I, until I receive the mantra's full benefits, leave it to the side? I can't. I would be guilty of ungratitude. So, don't be neglectful. That's this offense to Guru topic. Both Sadhu Ninda and Guru Aparad discussed together in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. The example is given. Dvidvida gorilla, that fellow on the left, he's getting punched in the chest by Balaram. Dvidvida, before he was this gorilla, enemy of the Vaishnavas, he was a minister of the great devotee Sugriva. In the association of Ramachandra, he became corrupted by the bad association of Naraka, which caused anarthas to arise in him. This bad association was the reaction of an offense that Dvidvida had committed when he disrespected Lakshman, due to being proud of his strength. So the scene was in Rishamukh mountain. Hanuman brought Ram and Lakshman before Sugriva. Sugriva had 2 ministers. Dvidvida, what was the other one's name? Starts with an M. Minda, yeah. So Dvidvida leaned over and whispered in Sugriva's ear, pay attention to this one. Don't worry about the other one. It was a respect to Ram, but a disrespect to Lakshmana. And because of that disrespect, that's what's being spoken here. Because of that disrespect of Lakshmana, there was a consequence. And that consequence was bad association of Naraka. And because of the bad association of Naraka, he became corrupted. One thing led to the next, And then he became, he resided in a place where he knew Krishna had pastimes, and he went to harass the people where Krishna had his pastimes. He became a bad guy. Dvidvida, who was previously a dear assistant, a minister of Sugriva, became a bad guy. And Balaram had to let him have it. Maha Aparad, or Mahat Aparad. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is quoting, there is a possibility of offending Mahats, even at the stage of Rati or Prema. when a sadhaka who has attained prema gets the full mercy of the Lord with direct association and service, then only cessation of this, aparad due to bad association is absolute. That is to say, up to that absolute stage. This is a slippery slope. Be careful. It's Vishwanath, it's a nice way of warning us. Be careful. When you're in dissociation of those who are elevated, and then becomes, what are the considerations of those who are elevated? Some of the other offenses against the holy name, considering the demigods to be equal to Krishna. So here's Vishwanath's explanation. There are two types of jivas, covered and uncovered. And in the uncovered, those that are influenced by Aishvarya, and those that aren't influenced by Aishvarya, they're influenced by Madhurya. And then these are types of jivas. Note that those are two types of jivas. Then there's Shiva Tattva and Vishnu Tattva. One who considers Brahma and Shiva and other demigods on an equal level with Lord Narayana is certainly an atheist. Hari Bhakti Vilas. So, too many offenses. Some other offenses. Disrespect of the Vedas. There are persons in this category, because the Shrutis don't directly mention bhakti, instead they emphasize karmakanda, they criticize that type of practice that doesn't have karmakanda, but it emphasizes bhakti, based upon their bookworm capacities. There's no mention in the Vedas about bhakti, like you folks are doing. And then, so how do we regard that other emphasis? It's just rungs on a ladder. There's steps leading to the highest. And then what's the highest? How to nullify this offense? Praising the Vedas, praising those who practice and teach the Vedas. Other offenses, sinning on the strength of chanting. This is pretty clear. Here's this upalakshana again, or metonymy word again. In this verse, nam no balad yashahi papa buddhihi, the term nama is an upalakshana for all the additional 8 acts of bhakti that destroy papa. So by being aware of this one in relation to chanting, then the others are also included. They're subsets of the one. Substitution of one term for another based on an understood association of common occurrence of several terms together. Same, we heard this definition before. 10th offense. Not being attached to or attentive to the holy name, in spite of hearing its glories, is the 10th offense. This offense is the root of all the other 9. So emphasis was at the beginning, and now emphasis is at the end. Here's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur has to say. From distraction, all types of inattention are born. If one has attraction for enjoying the temporary, one will naturally be inattentive to the holy name. And we're chanters of the holy name. And who in this room would like to raise their hand and say, I have no attraction for enjoyment of the temporary? And we're conditioned souls, so we can't make such a claim. So it means to some degree, this 10th offense is going on. And this is in really big, bold letters, because Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur speaks about Bharat Maharaj's fall from Baba Bhakti. And it was due to aparad. He doesn't specifically identify what that aparad was, but he identifies it was aparad. So, clear. Bharat had to change Baba Bhakti. And he went off into the forest, the Pulaha Ashram near the Gandaki River in Haridwar, way up there, and deep devotion to Surya Narayan, living alone. And, we know what happened. The mind of Bharat became distracted while engaging in devotional activities. He heard a roar of a lion, and the female deer that was pregnant jumped and fell in the river, and she died. But the little baby fawn was born, so he rescued the baby fawn and brought the baby fawn back to his ashram and became distracted. The teaching of Vishwanath is it was due to some past offense, that distraction, and not only distraction, but he desisted from his devotional practices from the stage of Baba Bhakti. So here's what Sukadeva Goswami says. Bharat Maharaj was overwhelmed by an uncontrollable desire, which was manifest in the form of a deer. Due to the fruitive results of his past deeds, he fell down from mystic yoga, austerity, and worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If it were not due to his past fruitive activity, how could he have been attracted to the deer? After giving up the association of his own son and family, considering them stumbling blocks on the path of spiritual life, how could he show uncontrollable affection for a deer? This was definitely due to past karma, and not just past karma, an offense. Here's Bhakti Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami to the rescue. Ordinary fruitive activities are not strong enough to create such an impediment or fall down in the path of devotional service. Therefore, fruitive activities mentioned in this Bhagavatam verse of Canto 5 mentioned must have been offenses performed in a previous birth. Again, it doesn't say what, put a pin on, this was the offense. In this way, King Bharata is like King Indradumna and other devotees that committed offenses. King Bharata, he willfully neglected bhakti. He desisted his bhakti practice and spirit, willfully, knowingly. All of this is due to a past offense, and it resulted in his over-attachment to the deer, thus fall down. But then, as you see on the left, he became a deer, thinking of the deer, but he had remembrance of his unalloyed bhakti from the previous life as Bharat Maharaj in the body of a deer. So he did the Bharat Maharaj in the body of a deer and then became Jad Bharat, etc. So here we go. This is Vishwanath is very, very thorough. The Save Aparad, Vaishnav Aparad, Jiva Aparad, and Nam Aparad. So he is writing about all of these. Eradication of these four types occur in stages. Phew. Partial, extensive, almost complete, complete, absolute. Let's go for the absolute. But we have to go gradually. Removal of anarthas. So this is this same, this is not his chart, but it's taken from his words. There's the Shraddha all the way to Krishna's lotus feet in Prema stage, where it's absolute. And the eradication from sins, eradication from Namaparad, eradication from Bhakti. The reactions or anarthas arising from those three categories. You can take a picture of the chart if you like. I'm going to move the slide. Question. On the chart on the previous page shows Krishna's lotus feet as beyond the stage of prema. Did you notice that? Krishna's lotus feet is beyond the stage of prema. What's all that about? How do we understand this? He, Vishwanath answers, for one who gives up material body with prema, he becomes qualified for the spiritual world with a spiritual body without limitations imposed by material body. As long as you have a material body, there's limitations. You can transcend the limitations, but there's limitations. So it's beyond. We're going to end chapter 3 real soon, so get ready for an abrupt ending. From chapter 2, can anarthas arise even after attaining the lotus feet of the Lord? There's the answer, no. Chitraketu had 10 million wives. And one of those wives, Kritajuti, had a son. His accidental mahar aparad as a Vidyadhara, joking with Lord Shiva, cursed by Parvati due to her misunderstanding, was apparent, not real. He retained his prema. Even as Vritrasura. After the departure of Chitraketu's son, Narada gave Chitraketu a mantra by which he attained shelter at the lotus feet of Sankarsana. So he became squeaky clean. He became that stage of attainment of the lotus feet of the personality of God. And so there he is, King Chitraketu, cursed by Parvati, as he was, there's Chitraketu in that Vimana flying over above where Lord Shiva was seated with Parvati on his lap. There you see Narada is in the painting, and there's other sadhus in the painting, and King Chitraketu now is the king of the Vidyadharas. Where are the Vidyadharas in the hierarchy? They're in this place in between. It's in Bhuvar Loka. That's us. Bhuvar, that's the Vidyadharas and Kinnaras and Charanas and those folks. And then the upper planets. So it's in between the Swarga planets and us. So he was a king in that realm. And he was zooming around in Vimana, and he's passed over where Lord Shiva was seated, Mount Kailash, and made a remark. Hey, Lord Shiva. And Parvati thought, you're insulting Lord Shiva? I curse you. You become a demon. Sure enough, he became a demon. In behavior, demon, but in consciousness, a prema bhakta. And he had to have this big confrontation with Lord Indra, who finished him. Another example, can anarthas arise even after attaining lotus feet? This is the giant Vijay situation. No. Because they, giant Vijay, received the fruit of a prayer to Lord Vishnu or Narayana. Lord Narayana, we know because we are gatekeepers, we're intimate associates of you in a servant role. We know that you like chivalry. And who is there in Vaikuntha you can be chivalrous with? But if you like, if you so desire, we can do that service for you. Diminishing your affection for your devotees, please fulfill our prayer. So they're being cursed by the 4 Kumaras was the fulfillment of that desire. There's another nice drawing depicting the same. And another nice painting depicting the same. And there's another nice painting depicting the same. Gatekeepers, giant Vijay. Can the apparent fall down of Chitraketu and of giant Vijay be compared to the uncontrolled anger exhibited against the Yakshas in Alakapuri by Dhruva? You know the story. I don't have to retell the story. Some of you in the room may not know the story. Dhruva after achieving what Dhruva achieved, when the Supreme Lord Vishnu said, I want you to be the next king. Go back. Your father will receive you. You'll inherit the kingdom. And so Dhruva became the king. And he had a step-brother. What was the step-brother's name? Uttama. So Uttama was killed by the Yakshas. So Dhruva was in a revenge mood. So he wanted to go slaughter all the Yakshas. So there he is slaughtering all the Yakshas with his bow and arrow, and there's a big scene, etc., etc., etc. So Swayambhuva Manu came and said, Dhruva, stop it. Don't kill all the Yakshas for what one Yaksha did or some Yakshas did. This isn't appropriate. So he stopped. So uncontrolled anger exhibited against the Yakshas in Alakapuri. Our acharyas offer no commentary outside of what is found in the BBT purport, which says, Dhruva Maharaj is becoming angry, overwhelmed with grief, and envious of enemies, was not incompatible with his position as a great devotee. It is a misunderstanding that a devotee should not be angry, envious, or overwhelmed by lamentation. Dhruva Maharaj was a king, and when his brother was unceremoniously killed, it was his duty to take revenge. No, he just went over the top. He was slaughtering all the Yakshas. Uncontrollable anger. So that's about all that I have to say. We've been discussing these two verses. This is going through Canto 3, Chapter 29, this other topic that we were discussing at the Vaishnava Etiquette Seminar. Chapter 29 of Canto 3. The manifestation of unadulterated devotional service is exhibited when one's mind is at once attracted to hearing the transcendental name and qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is residing in everyone's heart, just as the water of the Ganges flows naturally down towards the ocean. Such devotional ecstasy, uninterrupted by any material condition, flows towards the Supreme Lord. This is presented in that chapter 29 is a very Rupa Goswami-like definition, or Rupa Goswami's definition is like this definition of what pure devotional service is. The mind is spontaneous. There's the regulative and there's the spontaneous. The mind just goes to Krishna. It doesn't require any effort. The effort is already, so it's like once a car is running, it's running. You jumpstart a car, it may take a little effort, but after it's running, it's zoom, zoom. So the spontaneous effort of bhakti, spontaneous manifestation of bhakti is the exhibition of pure devotional service. One's thoughts, one's whole being just goes to the Supreme Lord like water, like the Ganges water flowing down to the ocean. Same as Queen Kunti prayers. Here's Queen Kunti's prayer. O Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. So that's pure bhakti, and that's the end. So let's see what happens, because you see how intricately he covers everything. Maybe what I'll do, I've been asked, let's go to chapter 4. It gets a little more sticky or a little more intricate. So let's see, maybe I'll make it shorter or something. And then, when you go to the upper, it's out of sight. It's really amazing, but it's not like it just textbook writing. He's a realized soul. He's in the topmost platform of devotional service, writing about the stages of bhakti. from the authority of Shastra and from his own practical experience. So let's see. I'll cue Govinda now. What's been going on when these evening classes have been taking place? Shatarupa just knows when the class is going to end, and she gets the harmonium ready and starts a little kirtan. And so you're the kirtanier this evening. So after I'm done, you got a Mridanga player and kartal players, and off we go. So any discussion? Varsana. Try it again. Nothing. No microphone. Really? Signal's not working. Okay, go ahead. You got a good voice. I can give you my microphone. It's not just me, it's everybody. Okay.
So the question I'm having is about sadhu ninda. Two sets of examples. One is this where Dvivida, he became a demon because he disrespected Lakshmana. On the other hand, we hear that Sugriva also did not respect Lakshmana, but he was, in one sense, he was redeemed because there was this pastime where, he fought with Vali, he had come back, and Lakshmana garlanded him, and therefore, Dvivida, so that way he was redeemed. So we see this, on the one hand, Dvivida was, it was taken as sadhu ninda, whereas for Sugriva, he was redeemed. And the second example where it almost seems like an outlier is Rupa Goswami, an eternal associate of Lord Chaitanya. When he was deep in his meditation, there was this Brahmana who took offense because Rupa Goswami, he smiled, and no offense was, like one of the slides said, public criticism. There was no public criticism, and no offense was meant by Rupa Goswami either, but it was taken by the Brahmana. My third data point is, I think about 15, 16 years ago, I heard about an incident where somebody criticized openly a worshipable personality, and it seems like they're doing well in their bhakti. And so I was thinking, I'm happy for those devotees, but then it's puzzling to see where offense is committed, but they still continue. Offense is not committed, but then it is taken. And so is this Krishna's prerogative that it is often if something is an aparadha or not, or how do we understand these things?
I understood her question. I don't know if everybody in the audience understood her question. Let me go through her question. The first one was Dvivida got a reaction for advising Sugriva to not respect Lakshmana. Because he didn't respect Lakshmana, then Sugriva later was forgiven for that offense by receiving a garland and bowing before Lakshmana to receive the garland from Lakshmana, thus getting the blessing of Lakshmana and the garland from Lakshmana and bowing before Lakshmana, so he was relieved of that offense. But that same thing didn't happen with Judita, and he got spanked. He got a big reaction. Although it seemed incidental, but it was not, because it led to the next thing, led to the next thing. Another example was, there was a situation in Vrindavan where Rupa Goswami was in deep meditation, meditating on the pastime of Radha and Krishna, and it was one of those pastimes that was a joyful, jolly, loving exchange between Radha and Krishna, and he smiled as if laughing, because inside that's what was going on inside. Radha Krishna pastime was very joyful, and he was amused by that wonderful pastime. As he was walking by, as he was having this experience, one Brahmana who was very elderly and couldn't walk properly and was hobbling, passed by and saw Rupa Goswami. It looked like he was laughing at him. And he, the Brahmana, elderly Brahmana, became disturbed. So he was on his way to go see Sanatan Goswami, and he described to Sanatan Goswami, "Your brother, Rupa Goswami, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. He's laughing at a crippled old Brahmana. I thought he was an elevated person, blah, 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 blah." So Sanatan Goswami said, I'll look into it. I'll get back to you. Later that day, Rupa Goswami came to Sanatan Goswami and described, "I was meditating on this very wonderful, sweet pastime, and it was so nice, and all of a sudden the meditation broke. And I tried getting back into that meditation, and I couldn't." So Sanatan Goswami got his calculus out, and 2 + 2 = 4. "Here's what happened, Rupa. That Brahmana that was passing by you when that meditation was going on thought that you were laughing at him, making fun of him because he couldn't walk properly. And because of thinking that thought about you, that was taken by him as an offense against him, and therefore your meditation broke. So here's what you should do. This is why it happened and what to do. Go to the Brahmana, find him, fall at his feet, beg forgiveness, explain the situation, and ask him to please forgive your offense. And he'll say, "Oh, I'm the offender. I was thinking that you were, a bad Vaishnava, and I shouldn't have thought that thought. Please forgive me." And so everything was nice. So that's the 2. Now the 3rd. Now, with those 2 in mind, now comes the 3rd. And in narrating those first 2, I forgot what the 3rd one is. Just give me a 2-word.
Contemporary one. A contemporary one, and a regular devotee criticized him.
Okay. So there's this contemporary situation that she's aware of, that I'm not aware of, is one devotee explicitly was a vilifier of a Vaishnava, an elevated Vaishnava of one kind or another. And it was clear to others that it was a vilification, and yet that particular devotee seems to be going on very nicely in his devotional service. So what's going on? That's your question. So that's to help you understand the question. The answer is just wait. Aparad doesn't fructify instantly. It doesn't have to, but guaranteed. Infallible. Aparad bears fruit, and the fruit is bitter fruit. Guaranteed. There may be other things that, it's a bump in the road, but aparad is not. So it will happen. It's just not like wishing ill of somebody that may they suffer or something like that. It's just, it's certainty. And we don't wish that to happen to them. You're not saying that you're wishing, you're just questioning how to understand that it's not happening. They seem to be flourishing in their bhakti life, although they very clearly made an offense. That's your question, yes? No.
How to understand the Shastra, because it seems like some of these are not aligning with what we hear in the Shastra.
Well, that I gave the answer. It's in time. Aparad may take some time. It may be instant, as they say, instant karma, but it may take a while, but guaranteed. Like what happened with Dvivida, it took some time. So the main message out of all of this is beware of sadhuninda. It's real stuff, and it has consequences that are, depending on the severity of the offense. It can be very severe, but it's going to be something guaranteed. And then we'll have mucho problema. Guaranteed. Anyone else? This microphone may cooperate, may not cooperate. Is it cooperating or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. In the slide about King Bharata, at Bhakti Sandarbha Anuched 157, it was mentioned that ordinary fruitive activities are not strong enough to create such an impediment in the path of devotional service.
Right.
And I just want to understand how to make a distinction between the ordinary fruitive activities and the fruitive activities carried, carrying offense from the past life.
Okay, it's pretty simple. That there's spiritual and material, and that which is offense is on the spiritual, and ordinary fruitive activities is on the material platform. Ordinary fruitive activities, even if there's discrepancy in ordinary fruitive activities, it's on the material platform. It isn't as severe. It's not as binding as spiritual. That's the understanding. It's just the Acharya's comment or attempt to clarify the statement from 5th Canto Bhagavatam. What does fruitive activities refer to? It's not the material, mundane fruitive activities. It's this other kind. It's just like, sometimes there's the term is used in two different realms. Piety. And then there's transcendental piety. Like, the verse, you're probably familiar, the very nice verse when Sukadev Goswami is narrating about the cowherd boys. And he just bursts out with this appreciation of the cowherd boys. How fortunate are these cowherd boys? And he uses the word punya, krita punya punja. And then commentary, abundant commentary. It's not material punya. Material punya can't reach to the realm of becoming Krishna's associate. It's another kind. It's a transcendental kind. The good fortune that comes from being in the association of and serving the devotees of the Lord, that kind. So one word may have different positions of application, material, spiritual. Okay?
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
It would be really nice if our sound system tomorrow can be so clear as this. Subal, to the rescue. Where are you, Subal? Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. So Maharaj, I'm still trying to frame the question, but I think I'm getting to it. there's a lot of important ideals that you've covered through these verses. And, we see instances where you have Bharat Maharaj, who out of compassion had to, suffer dire consequences.
No.
No?
His rescuing the deer was not the problem. His compassion was not the problem. His choosing to desist from bhakti, that was the problem.
And so the consequences were extremely dire.
Yeah.
And then in contrast, we have Gopakumar, who makes his way all the way to Tapaloka, and he gets this advice from very elevated devotees.
He likes it too. He does it for a while.
And yet he made the right decision in that place.
Yeah.
And in this contemporary world today, with all the things that are going through our head, the time, place, and circumstance, the psychophysical nature of our individual being, it's not like we can say, okay, let me check ChatGPT and see what's the best way to go about this situation.
I don't know how to use that system anyways.
So is there a practical way of dealing with these? Like in decision making, we have identify a problem, here are your options, but one of the options is do nothing. Do we have something similar that we can use in our practical lives so that we're not committing something intentionally or unintentionally?
It's very simple. You know the answer, and I'll supply the answer you already know, and you go, oh yeah. It's Rupa Goswami's definition of bhakti. And we covered it in previous session. I'll repeat what we covered. The bhakti lata bija, the seed of bhakti, is Rupa Goswami's definition. That is from the the seed stage. Supposing you have a marigold seed, supposing you have a sunflower seeds, the seed is going to produce what the plant is, or the tree is. So this defining the seed is very important. And the seed is what Rupa Goswami describes bhakti is. It's the seed. And one can receive it. So if you don't receive it, then you're going to have another seed that's going to grow something else. So this Mishra and that Mishra seed. So, and it's possible, if one doesn't get the seed right from the very beginning, it can become transformed. But as the seed grows, the clarity must come. The purpose is that Krishna is to be pleased. That's the seed. Not this, not that, not the other. Krishna is to be pleased. That's the point of correction. So there's the mind, and there's the senses, the working senses. Krishna is to be pleased. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam.
Thank you, Ganesh.
That's it. That's the correction principle. Who else wants the microphone? Okay. Go ahead. Take the other one that's back there and give it to Amara.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So my question was? In one of the slides you mentioned that I think chanting inattentively, that is the root of many other anarthas and aparads. Yeah. And just in my limited observation, I do see, like, sometimes devotees will chant inattentively, but I respect
sometimes.
But I actually respect those devotees, and these devotees like help me, and I think they're really good. So can you still say that, considering that some of the aparads are very severe, like the ones that you mentioned kind of in the beginning of your presentation, can you still say that chanting with offenses is still better than not chanting, where you don't have the opportunity to commit offense?
And specifically when you're speaking of the offense of inattention, because there are other offenses that it doesn't, the same weight is not that quick yes. But practically speaking, other than those of us that had the good fortune of associating with Srila Prabhupada, and those of us that have the good fortune of associating with very elevated followers of Srila Prabhupada who are on the platform of Shuddha Bhakti, we're all getting something that's less than Shuddha. And should better, is it okay? That's your question. It's less than Shuddha, and I'm less than Shuddha, and is it okay? It's not only okay, it's a necessity. And then, in the course of that, less than fully attentive, practice and hear from the qualified sources what Shuddha is. And from that Shuddha sound vibration become Shuddha. The course correction in the course of going forward in your bhakti practices.
Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj. I have 3 questions if time permits. If time permits, that's okay.
Are they short or long?
Hopefully short.
Yes. Okay, this will be our last question.
So, Guru Maharaj, when you mentioned attention is a relationship with a person, and it is not only practice of mind control,
Yeah.
it is a relationship.
Yes.
So it is a very powerful statement. I want to thank you for that because it will help me in my chanting. Thank you very much.
Stay tuned for the Festival of Holy Name.
Yes, very
Yeah.
looking forward for that.
Me too.
And my question was related to this also, that like Srila Prabhupada's instructions, and also you have covered it multiple times, chant and hear. There is no,
Third
what is
thing.
the question of mind, Prabhupada says.
Yes.
And my understanding was feelings are processed through mind as well.
Yes. That's thinking, feeling, willing. Yes.
Yes. So when I'm bringing it to practice, I'm feeling that I'm just hearing, I'm just uttering and hearing. It is, so where is the space for feeling? Am I?
Well, it arises from the first two. It doesn't, it's not, the instruction is not take that switch and turn the mind into an off position. Just hear and chant, the mind is off. That's not what's being said. So the place is in relation to, but it's with the mandatory necessity of the ear portion. We're going to hear it. You've heard it every time we have a festival, holy name. It's the same. Bhakti Siddhanta and the importance of the ear. The ear conquers the mind. The mind becomes stunned, and the whole thing. Rupa Goswami's teachings and Vedanta Madhava, and we'll hear it all again. Just here. And what your question is, what's this place for the mind? From hearing and not wandering. The other kind.
Focusing the mind on the sound. And so these are the stages. And
focusing the ear on the sound. And then the mind will go there. The mind will become stunned. The mind will be captured.
Thank you very much. About Anishtita Bhajan Kriya, I had a question. Whether this is an internal disposition or external manifestation as well, because sometimes health may not permit or punctuality may not be practiced regularly, but still that disposition is there, that willingness or that love for the process is there, the faith is there. Is that still nishtha or that is not?
Let me rephrase what I think your question is. If there's normal times and there's exceptional times, and if the exceptional times due to health and this and that and the other thing, it's not what is normal, does that count as nishtha? That's your question.
More so is like, is it internal disposition?
Of course. Supposing Supposing somebody's deaf. Supposing somebody's in a coma. Supposing so many supposings. The circumstances don't permit. There's your answer.
Yeah. And Gopakumara, when he practiced what the residents of Janaloka were expressing,
Tapaloka.
Tapaloka, so still he was, in which stage he was? Would he be called in a Nishtha stage?
Probably.
He,
Sanatan Goswami doesn't follow that procedure. So from a distance, it sounds like because of his faith, because of the internal gratitude disposition that he had, although he was attracted to. I mean, their argument was, look, like it's instructing, you want to see, but we're seeing all the time. There's never a time when we're not seeing. Get with it, man. Just see him all the time. What are you doing this japa thing for? Just do dhyan. And then he had his response. Well, I'm attracted, but I've been given this gift, and I'd be disrespectful if I didn't feel and experience the fullness. So it's faithful. He was protected by that faithfulness and gratitude. That's a heart disposition. So nishtha for sure. Okay?
thank you very much.
That's it. And we'll see you all for the Festival of the Holy Name starting tomorrow evening. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.